Yeah, we are back up. Okay. Good evening again,
Nice.
everyone.
Uh, well, yep, high traffic,
Yeah, it might be
Sunday
that
night,
as well. Yeah, it could be that as well. Uh, good
fewish.
e- yeah, good evening. That's your opinion. Okay. For those who don't know, I am Lynx. I am a Norwegian woman, and I'm looking forward to sharing our tales with you. Going into the old stories from my people. And my co-host is.
Hey, I'm Katrina. I'm English, although kind of linked to Scotland now. Yeah, I'm based in Scotland, and I've been interested in mythologies, first mostly Norse mythologies, Celtic mythologies, and have come to looking at the area of folk tales because it's quite overlooked in terms of people attempting to analyze just these little folk tales that people
Yeah,
tell
yeah.
within their communities.
And what I have experienced growing up, and I assume that that's gotten worse as the years have gone by, is that the stories are told, but as the children grow older, the tales are um, being dismissed. It's just a fairy tale, it's just a folk tale, and it's just entertainment for kids. And looking back on them as an adult, there is so much wisdom in them, and lessons to learn, and uh, moral conundrums, all of that, and it's a wealth of information in there. So it's definitely something we should bring back and in a more serious way.
Absolutely. It's one of the things that I think we've forgotten to do. I think kids are getting read sort of different bedtime stories and tales to our old traditional tales nowadays,
Yeah,
which sort of loses a lot of the sort of original meaning. But folk tales, like literally the definition of a folk tale that I've got in front of me, is a popular story that was passed on in spoken form usually. So I think it's important that we're gonna try and continue that tradition and passed on from one generation to the next. Totally unknown author and just generations of people put their own spin on the tale. And that folk tales are fairy tales. Folk tales can cross into old legends. They can be fables. There's a whole diversity of folk tales with all sorts of different points to them, and goodness knows how many we might have lost or which have been hidden over time. And they're so diverse and so difficult to categorize. And people, I think, don't often assign deep symbolic meaning to them. But over here, we're hoping to dig some of that out. You know,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm really looking forward to it. And as the show progresses, we will be moving across Europe and looking at all the different tales our European kin has to offer us, and look for differences and similarities, and we'll also try to find the deeper roots. There was this one article. I've yet to read it, but it was mentioned by Robert Sepper, the anthropologist on YouTube, and according to that article, about 25% of all the European tales can be traced back at least 5,000 years. So it's definitely older and deeper, and more ancient than many people know. I would think. I had no idea they went back that far.
No, neither did I. When I first learned of the true depth of the roots of folk tales, I was quite surprised how far back some of them went. And hopefully that's something that we can elaborate more upon and enlighten people about in the course of the show. And of course, another thing that strikes you when you read fairy tales from all over Europe is just how similar a lot of them are, and how much of a shared culture we've had with them. There's stories that have sort of the same plot points, the same tropes cropping up, the same archetypes of like a common European experience.
Yeah, because even though there are clear differences
I
between
really
us,
think that it's sort of an avenue that's been very neglected, and I'm
yeah,
really excited
if not,
to get into it.
yeah, these days
Let's have a look at what the chat.
I would say
Oh, we got
this.
free ice cream from Miss Britannia.
Yeah, hello, Miss
Well done.
Britannia, good to
Thank
see
you.
you. Uh,
Yes.
I would say that the old stories
It's lovely to
are,
see all the support in the chat.
yeah, there are lovely women on
Well, yeah, that
Tidar.
is similar environments create similar stories. We've all grown up in this, evolved in this harsh, cold climate where originally I don't think we had many things to grow, and we had certain life lessons and ways of coping with that. And I think for many northwestern European countries, I think we have maybe such good stories because a story around a fire on a really cold winter night is comforting. Yes, temperate and cold. Yeah, 4 distinct seasons. You've got a lot to deal with. You've got a limited growing window. You've got to survive the winter, and it's really shaped how we've constructed these things to amuse ourselves and teach us life lessons. It's created a wonderful, unique culture.
Yeah, I think it's also important to bear
I'm
in
lovely to
mind.
pass it back to you.
Yeah,
Got any thoughts?
yeah, I would like to keep in mind that all of the European peoples have the same root.
So,
Um, so the basis for the stories are the same, but then it gets different
my
flavors.
favorite is Princess Bulrushes or Kappa Rushes. I don't know where Lynx has gone.
I'm sorry, I was muted.
Hello. Did you have trouble finding your mute?
Well,
Ah,
yeah, I did. I thought I had unmuted myself, so I've been sitting here talking, and
oops.
well, these things happen. I'm not. I'm not used to keeping track of 3 tabs at once. What I was starting to say was that I think we should also have to bear in mind that all of European peoples have the same root. With the Indo-Europeans or Aryans, if you like to use that term, or some link it to the Scythian people. That we were basically different tribes, just separating at different time and then settling in different areas. So the basis of the cultures are the same. Um, and I think we are going to see the same morality go through everyone. Um, the I hate the term values these days. It's sort of been poisoned. But I think we will see the same themes being emphasized in how to behave and how to act. So, of course, with that same basis, there will be much similarities between us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. There's going. I think what we hope to highlight here is a diversity of cultures, but a real that we have a real connection in our deep roots is what I think I'd say.
yeah. Um, excuse me. And also showing that the Europeans have enough diversity as it is. You know, we're not one single block that is all of the same. We have our own cultures, and they are all worthy of preserving and keep alive. Because what we see in these days is a real attack on our cultures,
Hmm.
into uh, a globalistic blob, basically, where everything is supposed to be the same, and it's really not. So, what we want to do with this show is to help water our deep roots and hopefully make people connect a bit more to the old stuff and re-remembering the old wisdom our ancestors gave down to us with their stories.
I was just looking at the comments of that's your opinion,
Mm-hmm.
and yes, that's very right. Our pagan deities have been very similar. That is actually quite true across Indo-European territories. So that expands from India to Europe. We could get into that. I do I do love to compare ancient European religions myself because I have a particular interest in that, and that is something we could get into them because we're mainly going to cover folk tales on the show, but we could get into myths as well, and I dare say we will be bringing up myths and pagan religions in the analysation of these folk tales. Because I tell you what, you can read some of them right off the bat and see a hell of a lot of pagan symbolism in them.
Mm-hmm. Um, I was thinking of one of the stories we are going to talk about later, and it was just one thought after another just flooded my brain, basically, with connection to Old Norse myths and the symbology they were using, and I have been thinking about the depth of that story several times, but it hadn't really come in that way. And because sometimes I just have to let my brain relax and find connection on its own while I'm doing other stuff, and then I can just get a flood in. And that happened. And I would say the roots of that story is one we're going to use on the hero's journey for women. I've actually found two stories in the Norwegian tales that covers this, and yeah, the symbology is not just Christian; it goes way back. I can see clear traces of the Norse mythologies and probably older, I would say. But I don't know enough of the older stuff that the Norse mythologies were based on yet to say anything here and now. But I would say that that story goes into one of those percent that go way back.
Yeah, and similarly in English folk tales, I've come across characters that, at least in the versions I've been reading, were said to have been fathered by one of the old gods
Oh.
by Thor, or it's usually Thor actually. You're going to come across them, and there's a lot of remnants in English folk tales still of giants,
Mm.
and of course, those are very heavily involved as a major force in the old Norse religion.
Yeah, there are um, the Norse stuff. They that really went all over Northern Europe. Um, I actually don't know much about folk tales from England. I'm Norwegian, so basically that was limited to the tales of Robin Hood and King
Mm-hmm.
Arthur, the standard stuff. So I'm definitely looking forward to learn more about the really old and genuine folk tales of your people. I just want to give a big shout out to Jaffa's TV. Uh,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
thank you very much, Jaffers, for all that help with the sound.
yes, welcome to our show. And he graciously spent a few hours with me adjusting the sound levels and teaching me a bit about that. And I don't have words for how grateful I am for that. So if there's anything I can do in return, just let me know anytime.
That's your opinion. Yeah, Atlantis and Hyperborea. I don't know. Those are something we could look into in the future. There'll be
Yeah,
the truth to that.
yeah,
Whatever you do believe in it, there's always some sort of truth with relation to these stories. They don't come from nowhere.
no,
They
they don't.
definitely don't just nowhere. Hello, offensive username. That's a good name.
Yeah, there are pretty good names on here, I have to say.
It's great.
Yeah, um, with the Atlanteans and Hyperboreans and everything, that is a deep, deep rabbit hole to dive into. So if we are going to look at that, it will be sometime in the future, I have to say. We already do have a lot on our reading list just to keep up with the themes we've already decided upon, but we will be looking into several aspects of tales and myths, and maybe even dive in somewhat into history. At least I could definitely want to do that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when you're talking about folk tales, you've got to give some historical context sometimes.
Yeah,
I think aren't that understandable without it. A lot of the Scottish ones actually seemed to be very inextricable from historical context.
yeah,
And they've got a few interesting ones. So
yeah,
hopefully we can look at those.
yeah.
We've got all sorts of things coming up. We've got heroism. We've got magical creatures. We've got virtues. We've got all sorts of aspects of folk tales that we're planning to look at.
Yeah, and close to my heart is to give a proper introduction to what a troll actually is.
Yes.
Because I will admit, as a Norwegian, the term troll, it really doesn't make sense to me. So I just kind of huff and puff a bit about it because a troll that comes into streams and chat
Yeah.
and everything, they are not even close to being trolls.
Nope.
No.
It's not an internet annoyance. It's not a weird little pixie thing with bright coloured hair. It's a massive, great, big monster. That's a troll.
Yeah, they're for the most part either very evil or slightly evil, also quite stupid. So
They vary on a scale of evil and dumb.
yeah,
I mean, that's a bit like internet trolls. But, oh well.
yeah.
Poseidon is the god of streams. That's all I know. I mean, yes, he might have diversified.
Yeah.
Come to think of it now that they exist.
There's diversity everywhere, so perhaps the slogan is right that diversity is our strength, but they do miss the point that we already have had it.
Yep, we have a hell of a lot of diversity as we can hopefully go on to prove. Yeah. Great trolls in The Hobbit. There is.
Yeah. I did see a commentary on YouTube pointing us to Carolyn Emmerich. I've seen some of her stuff, and she's quite good. I haven't looked that much into it, but we do hope that there's room for more of us. We can come at things from different angles and everything, and spread the audience a bit. So much respect to Carolyn. Perhaps we'll talk with her someday. Yeah.
Thanks. Is it time to give them maybe a little taste of some of the sort of material that we might be covering on the stream? Because I know we both had a couple of little tales that we quite wanted to include
Yeah.
in tonight's stream.
Yeah.
We could have a little discussion regarding those.
Yeah. And also give a small taste of what our tales include. The form they take and all of that. So who of us should go first?
I could read the story I've got here in front of me.
Okay.
Tom the Tinner.
Yeah.
Now, this one, I don't think what it meant was immediately obvious to me upon reading. And I didn't think much of it, and it was at the start of my folktales book, and then I sort of skipped over it, read more tales that I found more immediately interesting, and then came back to it. But I think I'll read it, and then I'll explain why I did. Tom Tressida, the tinner, lived at Chai and Hearth, House of Ram, near St. Leven. Now, Tom was a tin streamer. Not a streamer, a tin streamer. No streaming in those days. For in those days you could still sluice the black tin sand from the stream beds. Eventually all the tin had gone. Tom and his family fell on hard times. Tom had his wife to support, and his daughter. 16 years old she was, and the very image of her mother. So reluctantly Tom said a fond farewell to them both, and set out to find work. He had heard there was work to be had over in the east. So he walked for a day, and he walked for another day, and close to sunset he reached a farm near Praise and Beeble. Quite frankly, the most strangely named place that I've ever encountered. Praise and Beeble. It's kind of nice to say. There, the farmer and his wife were kindly people, so Tom asked to be taken on as a farmhand. He agreed to work for a year or two. No, for a year for 2 gold pieces, sorry. For a year he worked hard and he worked well. After 12 months, the farmer said to him, "Here is your pay, but it's been a hard year. If you give it back to me, I will give you something worth more than silver and gold." Tom thought, if it's worth more than silver and gold, I'd best be having it then. So Tom agreed. But what the farmer gave him was a piece of advice. A piece of wisdom, he called it. And the advice he got was this: never lodge in a house where an old man is married to a young wife. And then Tom thought, oh dear, I still have nothing to take back to my wife and daughter. So he agreed to work for another year for 2 more gold pieces. For another year he worked hard, and he worked well. After 12 months, the farmer said, "Here's your pay, but it's been a hard year. If you give me it back, I will give you something worth more than strength." Tom thought, well, if it really is worth more than strength, then I'd best be having it. So Tom agreed again. But again, what the farmer gave him was a point of wisdom, and the advice he got was this: never forsake the old road for the new. Then Tom thought, I still have nothing to take back to my wife and daughter. So he agreed to work for yet another year for 2 more gold pieces. That year he worked hard, and he worked well. After 12 months, the farmer said, "Here's your pay." But, you guessed it, it's been a hard year. If you give it back, I will give you something worth more than gold and silver and strength. So once again Tom agreed. But once again, what St. Levan the farmer gave to him was a piece of advice. The farmer said it was the best point of wisdom of all. And the advice he gave to Tom was, never swear to anything seen through glass. Then Tom decided that although he had nothing to show the 3 years' work, he would return to his wife and daughter. The farmer's wife gave him a fine slab of heavy cake to take with him. On the road, Tom soon met some fellow travellers. They were merchants, and they drove pack horses, laden with wool from Helston Fair. They were going to Treen, not far from where Tom lived. So he was delighted to have some company on the road. That night they reached an inn. As the door was opened, Tom saw the landlord was an old man, but the landlady was a young woman. He remembered the first advice: never lodge in a house where an old man is married to a young wife. So he asked to sleep in a stable. That night, as he lay there, he heard voices. Looking through a knothole, he saw the young landlady talking to a monk, discussing how they had murdered the old landlord. But the monk stood close to the knothole, and Tom was able to secretly cut a fragment of fabric from the monk's gown with his penknife. Next day, Tom woke to find a gallows outside. His friends, the merchants, had already been found guilty of the landlord's murder. But Tom produced the fragment of cloth and told what he had heard, so the merchants were set free, and again they set off on the road, with many promises of rewards for Tom when their trading was over. After a while, they came to a fork in the road, where a new shortcut had been made. "Come with us on the new road," said the merchants. But Tom remembered the second piece of advice: never forsake the old road for the new. So he alone took the old road. He'd only gone a few yards when he heard a hue and cry from over the hill. He ran across and found his new friends being attacked by robbers. "One and all!" cried Tom as he stuck out with his walking stick and soon sent the robbers flying. Then the merchants continued in safety with many thanks and more promises of reward. So after 2 days' walking, Tom got home. Looking in the window, he thought he saw his wife kissing another man. His grip tightened on his stick, and he was about to burst in when he remembered the third advice: never swear to anything seen through glass. And so he put his stick back in his belt, and gently he went inside to find it was his daughter, now a young woman, and still the very image of her mother, saying goodnight to her fiancé, Jan the cobbler. Of course they were all delighted at being together again, but then Tom had to explain to his wife that for 3 years' work he only earned a cake, and no wisdom. And wisdom. To which his wife replied, it seemed, he had earned nothing but cake. So she was so vexed that she picked up the cake and threw it at Tom with all her might. Tom ducked, and the flying cake missed him and smashed against the wall, and as it did so it broke into pieces. And out fell not 2, or 4, or 6, but 15 gold pieces, all wrapped in a piece of paper. On the paper was written, "The reward of an honest man." And that's my story.
It was a very good one, and very interesting piece of advice. And yes, Jaffa TV, she is reading this live, so Katrina is good. So all
Yeah,
give a round of applause.
text clap. Thank you.
Yeah.
I stumbled a little bit. I've read that story a couple of times.
Yeah.
I find it to be an interesting one.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know, chat. What did you pull from it? Because I think it was interesting how the thing that was more than gold and silver and strength was in the end knowledge.
Yeah.
That's what I got from it myself.
Yeah. It definitely goes to the old European of course, my head just blanked out for a second there. The old European standing that wealth isn't everything. Um, yeah, as Paul Adams says, delayed reward, definitely. Prudence, as Boudica says.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you don't focus on the materialistic in this world. That you don't have to own every little bit of every possible thing to be happy. What you can treasure really is wisdom, because that will take you safely through the life.
I say so, and the chat's also making point which I hadn't quite picked up on, actually, but they're right. Delayed gratification.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I think, something we have to encourage a lot in European society, where evolutionarily, I don't think we had food available to us all the time.
No.
So we had to certainly do a lot of that.
Mm-hmm. And
Well, apparently Finnish children's stories are brutal. Full stuff.
yeah,
That
no,
doesn't surprise me somehow.
no, the Norwegian tale can also be quite brutal and cruel at times. There is quite a lot of beheadings going on, actually. So that was actually a bit surprising to me, because I couldn't remember that aspect but reading back now, it's basically everywhere. And a few years ago, there was one Norwegian fairy tale they tried to launch in the US, and uh, all of the critics were, of course, on the left side of the political spectrum, and they all started to hollering about how terrible the story was because the main
Oh dear.
the main character tricks a troll and kills him. Actually, he tricks the troll into killing himself. Um,
Oh, triggered.
oh yeah, that triggered them.
Mhm.
I think they were planning on releasing more tales than just one, but I don't think it went any further than that. Uh, to be fair, they did choose quite a brutal story as the first story, but it's very popular here in Norway,
Mm,
so I also see why they did it. They might have wanted
yeah.
to ease the American audience into it. Another point that Boudica made earlier on your story was she says, interesting advice. Never stay in a house with an old man married to a young wife.
I mean, it might be useful in a more general sense than it was specifically to Tom.
Yeah, well,
I mean, that suspiciously large age gap did result in a murder
hmm
in my tale.
yeah.
It's a bit harsh about age gap relationships.
Yeah, well, I do think it's
Uh,
still quite good advice
yeah.
that people are somewhat of an equal footing. Not equality,
Mm.
of course, but when
In
the
terms
different
of experience,
yeah, when the differences become too large, they they can cause trouble. Hopefully not in murder, but we see that in our world as well. Yeah, but it's interesting that that comes in an old story because then it might not be this modern thing. We hear quite a few on the right side of the spectrum who complains that
mm,
a larger age difference is now frowned upon. But I'd also say, as I find it in old tales, it's also some wisdom behind it, even if we have maybe gone too far in that
yeah,
direction in our days.
I don't know. You could read deeper symbolic meaning into messages in that tale, like never forsake the old road for the new. And I
Yeah,
guess that might mean don't forsake something old just because there is something new
yeah,
to be doing.
that's definitely something that is very important to point out in these days because now everything old is thrown overboard for something new that we might not know the consequences of.
Mm,
And in many cases, it seems it's just because it's something new.
yeah. And there's also like stuff in that tale about looking at the full picture of things before you decide to act
hmm
about anything as well. So
Yeah,
it's like I guess there's those three messages together are kind of making sure you're in a situation where people are on the same page, making sure you're in a situation where you're not doing new stuff just for the heck of it, and making sure you're in a situation where you're not jumping to conclusions.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think the first one links in a bit tenuously, but it seems to have those themes.
Yeah, it does. Uh, I want to call out one comment made by Paul Adams.
Yes, I was just looking at that one myself.
Yeah,
It's a lovely.
yeah, I just want to read it out. He says, I appreciate a nice, comfy stream like this. We spend too much time fighting for our cultures, yet rarely make time to enjoy it. And that is exactly what we want to achieve with this show. Because we hear so much about our culture, our culture, our culture, and not hearing that much of our culture, from our culture. So we want to basically just sit around the campfire with a nice drink in hand and just enjoy old stories and discussing them. Because I think we need to be reminded of that culture we talk so much about. Even I am very very concerned about it, and I also need reminders of it. So I'm glad you. I think we are hitting a right note on that because it is exactly what we want to do.
Yeah, we do watch a lot of videos every day. People like us, like we're bombarded with videos of the things that are going wrong and the ways in which we're being attacked, and all the stuff which is a threat to our culture. But remembering what we're actually fighting to protect is the most vital thing. And also, you just need to take a break from all the bad stuff that's going on. I think there's a tendency among our movement to watch bad stuff 24/7. And some of the stuff you see coming up, really violent, really nasty, it's gonna mess with you. But here is a place where you can take a break and, listen to a story. Ah, cute bunny stickers. Yes, to
Yeah,
protect your roots, you need to know what your roots are.
yeah.
Links was so your story. What was the story that you were looking at in particular?
I was a bit unsure what to read today because
Mm-hmm.
most of the tales I've been reading again over the last few weeks have been something we're planning to have streams on with different themes. So I was thinking I could go with a bit of a different one. It's uh,
Yeah,
maybe not as deep as yours was, but equally enjoyable, I think. And even
we
in
like
stickers,
enjoyable.
yeah, we
Not
do.
everything has to be deep.
No, it doesn't. So this is more of a feel good. It's also one of the favorites
Yeah.
here in Norway. It's really popular. It was one of the favorites when I was a kid. My mother loves it. And I just want to say good evening to Stickle. Good to see you here. And cat and headphones as always.
Hi, Stickle.
Excuse me. I will get up the story, and that is the Three Billy Goats Brush. Please bear with me, I might mispronounce a few things. I will be reading live, so I do have quite an act to follow with Katrina stories there because she did a really good job.
I
Oh,
just got a lot of asked to read stuff out. I think I was probably the most well spoken in my class at school. I've had a bit of practice.
yeah, I believe that because you are a really good storyteller. I haven't
Thank
done
you.
I haven't done so much of that, but I will do my best. So sit down, relax, and here comes the three billy goats graph. Once upon a time there were three billy goats who were to go up to the hillside to make themselves fat, and the name of all the three was Gruff. On the way up there was a bridge over a burn they had to cross, and under the bridge lived a great ugly troll with eyes as big as saucers and a nose as long as a poker. So the first of all the young I'm sorry. So first of all came the youngest billy goat Gruff to cross the bridge. Clip trap, went the bridge. Who is that tripping over my bridge? Roared the troll. Oh, it's only I, the tiniest billy goat Gruff, and I'm going up to the hillside to make myself fat, said the little billy goat, with such a small voice. Now I'm coming to gobble you up, said the troll. Oh no, pray don't take me. I'm too little that I am, said the billy goat. Wait a bit till the second billy goat Gruff comes. He's much bigger than I am. Well, be off with you then, said the troll. A little while after came the second billy goat Gruff to cross the bridge. Trip, trap, went the bridge. Who is that tripping over my bridge? Roared the troll. Oh, it's the second billy goat Gruff, and I'm going up the hillside to make myself fat, said the billy goat, who hadn't such a small voice. Now I'm coming to gobble you up, said the troll. Oh no, don't take me. Wait a little while longer, and big billy goat Gruff comes. He's much bigger than I am. Very well, be off with you then, said the troll. But just then came the big billy goat Gruff. Trip, trap, went the bridge, for the billy goat was so heavy that the bridge creaked and groaned under him. Who is that trampling over my bridge? Roared the troll. It is I, the big billy goat Gruff, said Billy Goat, who had an ugly hoarse voice of his own. Now I'm coming to gobble you up, roared the troll. Well, come along, I've got two spears, and I'll poke your eyeballs out at your ears, and I've got besides two curling stones, and I'll crush you to bits, body and bones. That was what Big Billy Goat said, and so he flew at the troll and poked his eye out with his horns and crushed him to bits, body and bones, and tossed him out into the burn. And after that he went up to the hillside. There the three billy goats got so fat they scarce were able to walk home again. And if the fat hasn't fallen off them, why they're still fat, and so, snip, snap, snout, his tail is out. Okay, that was my story. Good evening, DDJ. It's good to see you here.
Big hand to Lynx there, who just read a story and did the voices in what is possibly a third language? Because I did not read a story in German.
It is it is a Norwegian story, but and technically English is my fifth language.
Fifth language. Okay.
Yeah, technically.
This is knocking all the languages out of the park. So many languages.
Well, for Norwegian, that's actually the usual how it goes, because Norwegian is so closely related to Swedish and Danish, and we also have two written languages of our own, and that is not including the Sami. So most people consider English their second language over here, but we kind of automatically learn Swedish and Danish as well. So
yeah. But do people in the Sami parts have to learn Sami?
No, that's more for the Sami people themselves. I think it might be an option. I wouldn't be surprised if it was. But the Sami do have their own newscast. You know, just a short news broadcast on TV and everything. So, but it's not that common with Norwegians.
Ice creams.
Ah,
We got
thank
ice
you.
creams from AZ, Stickle, DDJ, Dami. DDJ's doing lemons
Yeah.
as well.
Yay.
Wow, thank you everyone.
Thank you. That is very much appreciated. Yeah, so oh, Boudica just gave us a diamond. Thank you.
Happy debut star diamond.
Yeah, thank you.
I love the way the little man throws it up in the air
Yeah,
and it explodes.
yeah, that's
I like
quite fun.
well, I think we should probably wrap it up for a bit there. I think we should start wrapping up. It's a good on a story. I definitely think we don't want to give too much away about what we'd be doing.
No, not too
I
much.
think,
Uh,
and we might bit of a. We're planning to have a bit of a teaser, a little bit of a trailer coming out when that's ready.
yeah, she messaged me while we were streaming, and she will get back to that one shortly. She's been quite busy this weekend, so hopefully we will have a little bit of a
Yeah.
teaser
Yep.
for you within a few days. We so far we do have about 10 to 12 episodes in our minds with themes to cover and all of that. So, and that's just for starters, that's just what came to our mind at the get go. So, I'm really looking forward to digging into this really deeply. So,
Definitely. I've just thought we should add giants to the list
yeah,
because I had thoughts about them during the stream and how they're like so common in Norway and England actually.
yeah.
So yeah, we'll be coming up with more of that soon. Reading you some more stories,
Mhm.
having a little. So I hope everyone has a lovely evening.
Yeah.
And you only just caught the last 5 minutes.
Uh,
Well,
well, that happens.
and we are. We're planning to do things next on the 6th of September.
Yeah, that is next Sunday at the same time, 8 o'clock UK time, 9 o'clock Central European time, and 3 o'clock on the east side of the US. That is EST, I believe. Okay, so I hope you all enjoyed our little surprise show here, and hope to see you again next week.
Thank you all very much, and I'm really you liked my story reading, and it's really lovely to see you all here.
Yeah.
Just
Before we go, should you open the chest,
bye.
perhaps? You have
Oh
to
yeah,
distribute
yep.
the awards,
But that chest.
Yeah, the chest. We can't forget the chest.
It's asking me to add. I can add 50 to it.
Oh, you have to add 50. Yeah, then just do that and open the chest. Do, do,
I could
do.
just. Oh wait, I just added more, so you don't necessarily have to add a 50, but I can distribute rewards. There
Yeah.
we go. We'll count down to lemons. 20 seconds to lemons.
Chesticles, that's a new one. I haven't seen that one.
That word is disquieting. I don't like it.
Java TV says, "Don't worry about chess." Maybe not, but it's fun.
Oh, so luckiest followers are Damn Dummy. You got some lemons. It says 20.2 lemon. That's your opinion. It says 12.0 lemons next to you. I think is that the amount they got? Jaffa's TV, you want some lemons? Lady Z, do you also want some lemons? And DDJ, he got some lemons. And DDJ has helped us out with some things. Definitely too, we've had a lot of good suggestions about the music, the copyright free music from DDJ deserves those lemons.
Yeah, definitely. Big shout out to DDJ, good friend of mine now, and he has been such a good support and helping us a lot. So give him a round of applause. He's a wonderful man. So
And I do a virtual clap.
yeah, I have my clapping hands in one of my
There we go.
speakers. So yeah. Okay, well, I hope to see you again next Saturday for our premiere and a more regular show for us. No space struggles, that is absolutely correct, Stickle. Okay, so have a wonderful evening and the rest of the weekend, and I'll see you in the chat and hopefully next Sunday.
Yep. Bye bye, everyone.
Good night.